In this demonstration, we'll use the samples point feature class from the Intermediate GIS Data Demo File Geodatabase to perform raster proximity analysis. First, we'll set up the demo. You'll open a new ArcGIS Pro map document named demo_3-1. Then we'll remove the base map, add the samples point feature class, update the symbology, and enable labels with the field value. Next, we'll set the geoprocessing environment raster analysis cell size to 1 meter. And last, you'll use the feature to raster geoprocessing tool to create a new raster dataset named raster with 1 meter cell size. We'll start on Windows Desktop, where I'll open up ArcGIS Pro. In the opening screen, under New Project, I'll click Map. And in the new project window, I'll browse to my course folder. And inside my course folder, click on my demos folder and click OK. I want to name my new project demo_3-1, and then go ahead and make sure Create a Folder is checked and click OK. That opens up my new ArcGIS Pro document. I'll go ahead and maximize my screen. First thing I want to do is remove the base map. So over in the Contents pane, I'm going to select both layers, right-click, and select Remove. Now I want to add a connection to my intermediate demo data. So I'm going to right-click on Databases in the Catalog pane, select Add Database, and then I'm going to browse to my course folder. And under Demo Data, select my Demo Data File Geodatabase and click OK. Expand that, and then inside the Samples Feature Dataset, you'll find the Samples Point Feature class we're going to be using. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my map. Now I want to update the symbology. So I'll click on the symbol patch. And I'm going to use circle 1 and maybe make it 6 points. I want to zoom out just a little bit, so I'm going to set my scale to 1:75. And now I want to enable labels. So with samples feature layer selected, I'm going to click on the context sensitive labeling ribbon, and under label, click the label button. And then under field, I want to switch from the sample field to the value field. So I label with the values. And if we open up the attribute table for the samples feature layer, we can see there's a number of fields we'll be using, including the value, the sample field that has some marked as samples and others as not, and then the zones field as well. Go ahead and close the table view. The last thing we're going to do before we start is to set the geoprocessing environment raster analysis cell size. So under the analysis ribbon, under geoprocessing, I'm going to click environments. And in the geoprocessing environments, I'm going to scan down till I find the raster analysis group. There it is right there. And under cell size, I'm just going to enter 1 and then click OK. So our cell size will be 1 meter. Now we're ready to begin. We're going to first use the feature to raster geoprocessing tool. So I'm going to open up the geoprocessing tools, click on toolboxes, and then I'm going to navigate to the conversion toolbox. There it is right there. Go ahead and expand it and then scroll down. And we're going to go to raster. And then I want to use the feature to raster geoprocessing tool. That converts features to a raster data set. All right, I'm going to set the input features as samples. We're going to use the value field. My output raster, I'm going to save in my project geodatabase as just simply raster. And then the output cell size is set as 1. And if I look at the environments, I can see it's set there as well. That's because we set in the geoprocessing environment, the output cell size always to 1. Go ahead and click Run. This converts each point feature and value to a 1 meter cell with a corresponding value. So over in the project geodatabase, you can see there's our raster data set. And in the contents pane, you can see the raster layer as well. And so if we look in the map view, we can see that each point was converted to a corresponding cell with the same value. And if I click on one of the cells, I'll see that it has a value of 9, which is the same as the corresponding point feature. Now, notice in the very middle of the raster, there's a white cell. That is no data. And that's because if we look at the value of the sample point feature, we can see that it was null. And so null values aren't converted to values, they're converted to no data. All right, go ahead and save your ArcGIS Pro project. Now you're set up for the raster proximity analysis. In step 2, we'll calculate the local individual cell statistics, the focal neighborhood statistics, and the zonal zone statistics. First, we'll use the focal statistics tool to calculate the minimum value for a 3x3 cell neighborhood. Next, we'll use the cell statistics tool to calculate the range of corresponding values for each cell in the raster and raster focal data sets. Last, we'll first reset the sample label field to zone and then use the zonal statistics to calculate the max of raster and sample zones. Back in ArcGIS Pro, first I'm going to clean up my catalog pane, collapse my demo data geodatabase, and then in the geoprocessing pane, click on Back so I can access the Toolboxes panel. And go ahead and scroll the Toolboxes panel down until you find Spatial Analyst Tools. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the toolbox. And then we're going to work with 3 tool sets in this step. The local tool set, the neighborhood tool set, and the zonal tool set. We're going to start with the neighborhood tool set, so I'm going to expand that. And then we're going to use focal statistics to calculate for each input cell location a statistic of the values within a specified neighborhood around it. So go ahead and click on focal statistics. That opens up the geoprocessing tool. We'll set the input raster as raster. The output raster, we're going to name in our project file geodatabase raster_focal. You can see you can change the neighborhood geometry. We're just going to use the simple rectangle 3x3, and the unit type is going to be cell. And then for the statistics type, we're going to use minimum. All right, go ahead and click Run. In our project geodatabase, that creates a raster focal raster dataset, and it lists it as a raster layer in the contents pane. And if we explore the raster focal layer in the map view, we can see, for example, this cell right here, the original value was a 9, but it gets assigned an 8 because in the neighborhood, the minimum value is 8. And so it reassigns the value from the original raster value of 9 to a new value of 8. And if we move one cell over, we look at that 3x3 rectangle, we can see the minimum value is 8. So again, it assigns the value of 8. Move over one more time, and the minimum value in the next neighborhood is 9, and so it gets assigned 9. Notice too that it also assigns a value to the no data value in the middle. So the minimum value was 10 in the neighborhood, and it assigns a 10. So if we click on that middle square now, we can see the value is now 10, no longer no data. All right, so over in the geoprocessing pane, let's click Back, collapse the neighborhood toolset, expand the local toolset, and now we'll use cell statistics to calculate a per cell statistic from multiple rasters. So go ahead and open up cell statistics. We'll set the first raster to simply raster and the second raster to raster focal. Go ahead and rename the output raster as raster_local. For our overlay statistic. We'll use range, but I'm not really sure what range is, so I need to look in the help. And so you can hover over the question mark to get a little summary of the help, or if you click on the question mark, it opens up the actual ArcGIS Pro help where you can see the summary, the graphic, the syntax, the usage, and all the way down to the parameters. And so we can see the range is the difference between the largest and smallest value. So if we return to ArcGIS Pro, under Overlay Statistic, and go ahead and select Range. Now we know what it is, and click Run. All right, that creates the raster local raster dataset and raster local layer. And then if we explore it in the map view, we can see that this cell right here is a value of 1. And that's because the difference between the original raster is 9 and raster focal is 8. So 9 minus 8 is 1. And if we go to the red cell up there, the original value was 16. The focal value was 11. And so 16 minus 11 is 5. All right. In step 2C, we're going to look at the zonal statistics. So we'll collapse the local toolset, expand the zonal toolset, and then we'll use zonal statistics to summarize the values of a raster within the zones of another raster dataset. Go ahead and click on it. And before we run the geoprocessing tool, I'm going to select the samples feature layer in the contents pane, activate the labeling ribbon, and switch the label field from value to zones. So we can see there's zone A, zone B, and zone C across our raster. So in the zonal statistics tool, I'm going to set the input raster or feature zone data to samples, which in this case is feature zone data. The zone field, I'm going to switch it from value to zones. The input value raster is going to be raster. The output raster is raster underscore zonal. And the statistics type, we'll go ahead and select minimum. So it's going to be the minimum original raster value for each zone. Go ahead and click Run. All right, there we can see our raster's zonal layer. And if I turn off a couple of the previous layers, we can see in zone A, the value is 8, which is the minimum value in that zone. So there you can see the original raster, and the minimum value corresponds with the 8, which is the blue. Now we can also switch the samples feature layer field labels back to value, and then turn on raster zonal, and there it's really clear what's going on. There you can see the minimum value in zone B is 9, and the minimum value in zone C is 10. All right, good job. Go ahead and save your ArcGIS Pro project.